On a seemingly ordinary morning, you slip into your clothes without a second thought. A shirt slides on, buttons click through their holes, and out the door you go. But what if I told you that this simple act was once a mark of wealth and privilege, a task that many could not do alone? This is the story of the button, a tiny invention that took 4,000 years to emerge, forever altering how humanity. In ancient Rome, a civilization renowned for its remarkable innovations, the toga reigned supreme. Picture a woolen fabric, 6 meters long, artfully draped and wrapped around the body. To master the toga was an art, one wrong fold leading to public embarrassment. Senators, too proud to dress themselves, relied on slaves designated as vestiplicious to assist. The Romans were not unique in their reliance on assistance. Across ancient cultures, from Egypt to Mesopotamia, clothing was intricately crafted to be tied, wrapped, and pinned. The fibula, an ornate safety pin, was the closest thing to a modern fastener. This bronze or gold accessory held garments snugly at the shoulder, serving it. Consider this: civilizations that engineered durable roads and calculated the Earth's circumference clung to the safety pin as their primary clothing technology. But as Europe entered the medieval period, fashion evolved, becoming more complex and tailored. By the 1300s and 1400s, the nobility sported fitted garments that accentuated their figures. Yet, garments of the time required an elaborate system known as points. These were ties, metal-tipped laces that attached separate pieces of clothing together. A nobleman's outfit could involve dozens of knots and laces, transforming the morning routine into a test of patience. Imagine waking up in that era. You stand still for 30 minutes, surrounded by servants who meticulously lace and stitch you into your attire. Each movement must be careful, lest the carefully arranged fabric shift. At day's end, the process repeats as the servants reverse their morning. But for the lower classes, life was simpler. Their clothing consisted of basic pullover tunics and loose shifts that required no assistance. If your outfit needed help, it was a sign of wealth. The more complex the clothing, the more it revealed your status, a stark division that separated the. Yet a solution to this struggle had already emerged in the Indus Valley, where artisans created flat, perforated discs from seashells over 2 millennia before Rome. These discs resembled modern buttons, but were decorative, stitched onto garments purely. Despite their existence, the leap from decoration to functionality eluded ancient civilizations. The fibula continued to dominate, while the button sat in the shadows, waiting for its moment. Tailors perfected lacing and pinning, and society adapted to these methods for centuries without questioning their limitations. But change was brewing. Within the ruins of the Indus Valley, archaeologists discovered buttons dating back to around 2000 BCE. These artifacts showcased the same shape and holes as those of today, yet they served no practical purpose in fastening clothing. And across the globe, from ancient China to the Roman Empire, decorative buttons flourished. Gold, jeweled, and intricately carved buttons adorned clothing, yet none performed the function we now expect. They remained beautiful, but utterly useless for holding garments. The missing piece of this puzzle was the buttonhole, a small, reinforced slit that would allow the button to serve its purpose. The invention of this simple hole took humanity an astonishing 3,000 years to realize. In the time it took to create the wheel and gunpowder, the concept of a buttonhole. Why did it take so long? The answer is partly due to the materials. Woven textiles were precious and costly. Cutting into fabric was a destructive act, one that went against a tailor's instincts. A poorly cut hole could ruin an expensive garment, making the idea of buttonholes daunting. Cultural inertia played a role too. The existing systems of pins, brooches, and laces worked well enough. People are reluctant to abandon familiar technologies for something new, even when that new option offers significant improvements. Finally, in the 1300s, the functional buttonhole emerged in Europe, likely from Germany. Within a century, it spread throughout European fashion. Tailors began crafting fitted garments specifically designed for this new fastening method, allowing for tighter sleeves and structured. Yet the adoption of buttons was gradual. Craftsmanship remained labor-intensive. Each button was handmade from wood or metal, making them a luxury item. ordinary people still relied on tunics and string long after buttons had become common in the nobility's wardrobes. This disparity extended beyond wealth. Men's shirts buttoned on the right side, while women's buttoned on the left. The reasoning: wealthy women were often dressed by servants, making the left side more accessible for right-handed helpers. Men, especially soldiers, dressed themselves, so their buttons aligned with. Even with buttons now commonplace, the societal structure dictated their use. They adorned clothing, yet the system still operated under the assumption that someone else would do the buttoning. As buttons began to weave their way into fashion, something else was brewing in the workshops and early factories of England, hinting at even more change on the horizon.